The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Want to remind you about Win Ticket Wednesday. Your chance to win big every week on the KSL Sports Zone. This Wednesday, coming up tomorrow, you can win tickets to go see the Utah Boat Show and Water Sports Expo at the Mountain America Expo Center, January 29th through February 1st. Get your tickets today at utahboatshow.com and listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day tomorrow on Wednesday for your chance to win. Do you think, you asked me this question, do you think what Cignetti did at Indiana will be able to be duplicated?
No. I don't. I just think it's, what are we actually duplicating? So I think that's the important question here. What is actually being duplicated? And I said, I don't think Indiana speaks for the everyman of college football the way people would like to think. I think there's this view of, Indiana's been crappy for 30 years and now they're good. You've been crappy for 30 years. Now you can be good. Wrong. Indiana is in the Big Ten. Indiana did have a Heisman winner quarterback that randomly ended up there. Now, that can be replicable, right? The guy who doesn't get the invite to come and be a walk-on at Miami. So he goes somewhere else and develops and turns into a star, and then you hire a superstar coach at the right time, et cetera, et cetera. But I was even reading Dennis Dodd this morning, and I totally disagreed with what Dennis said, which was that college football's never been in a better spot. I just completely disagree with it. And yes, it's more accessible and you can watch the games and the viewership is through the roof. I totally understand that. But he was talking about, Curt Cignetti said, we didn't spend as much on this roster as you think. Want to bet? What does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean you only spent $15 million or $4 million? Or is it $25 million? What number actually is it that you think is replicable? Because we're talking about Utah finished, 15th in the AP poll today. Utah's a hell of a program. It's a really, really good football program. You had a Hall of Fame coach. You've had great players come through, several Hall of Fame players, including Eric Weddle last week was announced that he's going to be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. Congrats to Eric. I don't know if Utah can replicate what Indiana just did. They're not in the same conference, so they don't have the same financial money being handed to them by their TV deal. They don't have an 800,000 person donor base or alumni base that can pull donors from. I don't actually think what you're saying is replicable. I don't think Utah can spend the money on a football program that you need to be able to win at the highest level. I just don't think you can. BYU can, and credit to BYU. That's the luck of the draw. The rules allow them to do it now, and BYU's going to benefit from it immensely, and they're going to continue to do that. Good for Texas Tech as well. But that's who can replicate it. That's who Indiana is speaking for, the Texas Techs, the BYUs, the Vandys of the world. They are not speaking for Utah State. They're not speaking for New Mexico. They're not speaking for Colorado. They're not speaking for most of these schools at all, I think in the slightest. So when you say, we don't spend as much on this program as you would think, show me the numbers.
I don't know. I think I get it that it's easy to say more that the teams that spend the most are the teams that are ultimately going to win, because there is some truth to it.
Extraordinarily strong evidence that that's the case.
There is some truth to it. What I think about Indiana that is replicable is that if you do put a good coach in the situation to maximize their resources, then you can punch above your weight. Putting it kind of vaguely, I guess, because, what is your weight, right? Mm-hmm. What I disregard is, Indiana lost for 50 years and then they won. Well, the rules have totally changed.
Yeah, it's a different game.
Miami, everybody assumes that they're going to be good. They have stunk for 20 years. So I think we've got to detach ourselves from the old reputations of universities. I think the resource game has changed so dramatically that what was up is now down and what is down is now up. I mean, I don't think that Alabama is going to be Alabama going forward. You could make an argument that the SEC isn't going to be the SEC going forward as well, or that there will be a reshuffle, in that league too. So I think Utah has always been, like the argument about Utah that you just made has been true about Utah since the dawn of time. That is not anything new. They have never had more resources than their competition, ever. You can make an argument that they had more resources than the majority of the Mountain West And that's why Urban Meyer was able to have some success. But they have never had more resources than, or up until they went to the Pac-12, had more resources than BYU. You know? Colorado State had more resources than Utah for a long time. I mean, to make a dollar out of a dime is how Utah has existed for its entire existence. And I know people that kind of pretend that that changed in the Pac-12, but they never had more resources than Oregon or USC or even terrible programs like UCLA. So that hasn't really changed for Utah. Again, I think people out there kind of pretended it did, but it really hasn't. Their recipe for success has never really changed. So if Utah, can they compete at the highest level? 100%, as long as they have access into the playoff. I don't think Miami was the greatest team I've ever seen in my life.
Not, no.
And I know everybody's bending over backwards to give Indiana credit, which I get. Which I get.
It was an awesome story.
And they
awesome
were
season.
blowing out teams and stuff like that. But Miami was right there. They were right there to win that football game. And that's a team that lost to, who's it, SMU?
Yeah. Horrible losses early in the
Horrible losses.
Yeah.
So I don't think that, we're not talking about the 85 Bears and everybody else. And so if you get Utah to get itself where it's in position to win 11 games and compete for the Big 12 title and get into the to the playoffs, absolutely. Why couldn't they make a run? 100%. So I don't buy into that logic that it is the haves and everybody else. You got to figure out what your edge is. That's been true about college football since the dawn of time. Now, the game, the resource game has changed, and that's going to produce some different results. But to let teams off the hook and say, oh, you just don't have the resources, so why are you even showing up? I don't think that's true. I don't.
I want to see what Indiana's resources are before I'm willing to agree to that. Because, again, I'll read you what Dennis Dodd said that I totally disagreed with, which he said in air quotes or in quotes, the current state of college football is not sustainable. And he says, BS. Indiana had the same access to the players in the portal as everyone else. It's one thing to spend the money. Indiana did, but not as much as you thought per Signetti. First of all, again, I need to see those numbers. I'm not just going to – if I'm going to take a coach's word for it, then Urban Meyer's the single greatest person who's ever lived and greatest coach who's ever lived, because he'll tell you he is, because he will tell you how he did it the right way, and I don't believe him for a second. He says it's another to coach it up, put it in the right place, and call the right place. Absolutely, I think Curt Cignetti is an A-plus coach. Said Texas Tech was close. Were they? Did they move the ball once? Did they score? Did they score in their playoff game? How close were they? Did they score in the college football playoff? I don't think they actually did. Said Ole Miss, a mid-major in the SEC, was too. I agree, Ole Miss was certainly closer. Says Indiana weaponized their current landscape. They try to catch up. There will be others. Turns out the portal and the NIL weren't separators. They leveled the playing field. For decades, what Indiana did was not possible. Now Cinderella's driving a Maserati. The lie there is that Cinderella wasn't already driving one. They've always had access to this. Right. You just opened the floodgates for the Maserati to come in the door. You just previously said they couldn't because not everyone who had a Maserati could compete, or you had to cheat to do it. Now BYU has their Maserati. BYU has their resources. They have their money. Indiana has their money. It is still, I think, going to be a do you have the resources or not? I think that's still going to be what it is. Because if you're talking about Texas Tech, you can't say Texas Tech had a great run and we're a Cinderella. They're not a Cinderella. They were a high dollar business this year. We knew it going in. We got jumped on by Texas Tech fans before the season started because we were calling them bozos. And they said, do you know how much money we've spent on this program? And they were right.
Yeah. And
that's the problem.
But the thing is, the whole point, and the guy, what's his name? The big donor, and he came on our station and said it. The whole point, Cody Campbell, was to outspend everybody, win, to encourage change. Like walk away with the title because they spent more than everybody else, and it didn't work. It kind of worked in the Big 12.
You won the Big 12 title.
But
you put yourself atop the Big 12 going forward.
His whole goal was to humiliate college football because they spent so much money and just ran circles around everybody. That didn't happen. It didn't. And by the way, Miami has had more resources than everybody in its league since it began, and they were willing to spend it. Go back to the 80s with Jimmy Johnson when they were cheating their brains out. They've always had the resources. So why did they suck for 20 years? Because it's about more than resources.
It used to be about more than resources. It's less so now.
Yeah, yes, but it's not. I don't know. I don't think it's quite as dramatic as you're putting it.
We're not going to see a team without resources win a title.
I don't fully disagree with Dennis Dodd. I'm not going Mark Harlan here and calling Dennis fake news. I understand where he's coming from.
you're not going to see a team without top 25 resources win a title. And being in the Big Ten puts you in that conversation automatically. Day one, the fact that you have full access to your $20 million revenue share separates you. Utah said they were going to do it, and then they had to go and join this private equity company that we don't know if that's just to keep the lights on or if that's actually to pay these players. If it was just to pay these players, why are they losing so many kids? If they had the ability to spend this money, I'm very skeptical of it.
But how are they spending it? That is what's
sure.
lost.
Are you spending it the right way?
What's
Absolutely.
lost in all of this conversation is how. That's my point with Miami.
That's going to be the difference. Yes, the people who have the money and spend it right are going to be better than the people who have the money and spend it wrong. That is still true.
The only reason that Utah was able to compete with Pac-12 schools and their resources is because Chris Hill spent appropriately.
He spent better.
For example, he didn't jump into a big stadium expansion because until they had the dough. He talked about it all the time. Everybody's crying about it for a decade, and he's like, we'll get there. We got to build this facility first, and we got to be smart about it. And they invested in a recruiting budget before that was all the while. They spent more on recruiting than any other school in the Pac-12. It's how you do it, not just that you have the resources.
But you do have to have the resources.
I understand what you're saying, but you've got to, and this is what college football has always been about. You've got to play the hand you're dealt. And I think that's true in Utah. I actually think by saying, they'll never win because they don't have the resources is totally letting them off the hook.
Oh, I mean, Utah is winning. Are they going to win the national championship? No, Utah's not going to win a national championship.
They should be alive for one, absolutely. They have been kind of for the last since Urban got here.
When resources didn't matter as much. When the resources simply didn't matter as much. Well, Utah, look, Santa Clara, awesome basketball program, right? Gets NBA players, lots of NBA players, punches above their weight, probably spends $1 better than anybody else in college basketball. Never going to win a national championship. Doesn't stand a chance. Doesn't have a chance. It doesn't matter. So if it doesn't matter if you spend your money wisely, if you've got $1 to every 10 of everybody else around you.
Why is Gonzaga a number one seed every dang year?
They don't win. They never win.
They've gotten to the title game.
But they don't win. They can't break through. They can't. And now they don't have the resources to compete. And they're not going to be in the number one seed.
They're still in the top 10.
They're still going to be decent. They've got a great reputation, and that's where Texas Tech can change some things. It's where Utah can ideally hold on to this reputation they've had, but it's why they should have been more desperate, I think, to keep Kyle Whittingham. Reputation does matter on top of the resources you have. Having the reputation helps. It's a big piece of the puzzle. And if you don't have the reputation, it's going to be really hard to get there. But if you have the money, it can get you to the point where you can build your own reputation, which is what Cignetti's going to be able to do now with Indiana as long as he wants to be there. They are going to have the reputation of being a winner, which is why you will get a top 5 quarterback recruit to commit to your school, and they never would have gone to Indiana in the past. That's the benefit there. But then you also have to have – Josh Hoover didn't commit to Indiana for free. Is it Hoover? He's not doing that because they're paying him $4. I'm sure they're getting him $3-4 million to go make that transfer. You've got to have the cash as well, and it's going to keep Indiana relevant. I wish it wasn't different.
If Josh Hoover is any good.
Yeah, he was good at TCU. Guessing he'll be good in Indiana. Is Indiana going to win the title again next year? No.
But everybody was in love with Keaton Slovis. How'd that go? I mean, it's more complicated than just you've got the dough.
Correct. You have to spend the money right. But you can't spend the money right if you don't have the money. That's where it is for me. So what Dennis Dodd is saying that this is leveled the playing field, bull.
Well, what he's saying,
not even close.
No, what he's saying is the transfer portal and having everybody able to go everywhere which is true because Alabama used to be able to have a 3 deep that was full of NFL guys, and they can't do that anymore. That's what he's talking about. Is that instead of being 3rd string at Alabama, you're going to go be 1st string at, in this case, Indiana, and that is true, and that has evened things out because you'd be crazy to wait it out at LSU or whatever, and that was true.
Dethroned who we thought were the haves and the have-nots, no question about it. The Alabamas, the Georgias of the world, the Florida States or Florida.
But those players are all going somewhere, and that's his point.
That's true. That's accurate. If you want to say that we had it was too tight of a grasp on college football by those 5 or 6 teams, 100% agree. No doubt about it. And once you took that away from those teams, the ones that were either cheating or had built that reputation off of whatever, and I think you and I both suspect they were cheating and paying these players already. We know they were, USC, et cetera. It's not a coincidence that they have completely fallen off in the last 5 years now that NIL has opened up. It's not a coincidence that Kansas basketball, I don't want to say is irrelevant, but it's certainly not dominant in the Big 12 like it once was once everybody started being able to pay players. Obviously, that has reshuffled the deck in a very beneficial way. However, I don't think that means that the average college football team with mediocre or average resources is in a better spot today than they were before NIL. I just don't believe that for a second.
All right, stay tuned. We're going to talk a little Mammoth hockey with Cole Bagley coming up on the other side. Mammoth certainly taking advantage of that homestand. We'll ask him what it means going forward. Stay tuned. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Who's got it better than us?
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Listen, we're teaming up with Beehive Meals and honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week at kslsports.com/contest. Listen every Thursday to JJ and Alex for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. Quick hot take for you, Ben. If I'm a NFL coach looking for a head coaching job, I'm not taking the Bills job.
Don't want the Bills job.
Not a dang chance. And by the way, before I had a take about the Bills GM earlier in the show, I had not read into some of the reports surrounding the firing of good old Sean McDermott. Have you seen this?
He's a Bean, right? What's his name?
Yeah, so Brandon Bean is the GM, and apparently Sean McDermott sat down with the GM and the owner, Tony Pegula, I think is how you say it. And apparently McDermott pointed out what the roster lacked to win a Super Bowl. McDermott was like, I don't have any good players. Have you seen these bozos that you're saddling me with to win a Super Bowl? And apparently Bean and the owner's reaction was, how dare you notice? And they fired him. And then promoted Bean.
Didn't Bean jump on a radio station? I think we played this on the show. He jumped on a radio station in New York because the guys were like, or maybe it was like a weekly interview, whatever it was. And he's like, are you going to get some receivers? You guys don't have any good receivers. You don't have any good pass catchers on the team. And he's like, you don't know what we have. He yelled at these guys.
Right.
And it turned out it was an issue that plagued them all season long. It's like, yeah, Josh Allen can do so much, but man, you got to have some talent out there. Like, even at one point, the Patriots were like, well, let's try Randy Moss. Like, at least let's try Randy Moss for Tom Brady and see if that helps him. Let's go get Chad Ochocinco. I know he's kind of washed at that point, but like they tried to actually give Tom some talent.
Danny Amendola and those guys that they were good.
Wes Welker's a great player.
They were a lot better than what the Bills are throwing out there.
Absolutely.
So if I'm a coach, I'm like, wait a minute here. You're going to saddle me with an imperfect team, and then when I tell you, hey, we need some defensive whatever, you're going to fire me for noticing what a bad job you're doing?
You're going to cut me off at the knees.
Okay.
Yep.
No thanks. And by the way, do you realize that McDermott made the playoffs 8 out of 9 years in Buffalo? Do you remember what a darn joke Buffalo was from 1995 until those 8 out of 9 years?
No,
joke.
McDermott should get hired somewhere else. He's a good coach. I fully believe he's a good coach.
I'm not taking that Bills job. In fact, if I'm Josh Allen, I'm requesting a trade today.
I want to go elsewhere.
Today.
Send me to Houston.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere but here. Because you just fired a good coach because you're CYAing the fact that you're doing a bad job.
Yep.
All right, let's switch gears and talk some hockey. It's time to talk to Cole. Go ahead, Christian.
It's time to talk hockey with the Utah Mammoth and NHL insider on KSLSports.com. Cole Bagley on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Cole's visit on the show is brought to you by Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. He is Cole Bagley. What's going on, Cole?
Not much. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Cole, am I wrong? The vibes feel pretty immaculate right now with the Mammoth hockey team.
Oh, they are very good. I'd say they might even be better than when they won 7 in a row. That's because, they're playing consistent hockey. They've figured out how to, put some wins together. They've also figured out how to get points even when they're not coming out with a dub. So, this team is hitting their stride, and they're starting to figure things out. So, things are good.
How much of that has to do with being at home?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with being at home and entering the second half of the schedule that favors them a lot more than the first half did. Just with, way less games on the road, fewer back-to-backs, and then, of course, this is the longest homestand of the season with 7 straight at Delta Center. So, yeah, I mean, the goal, through late December was just to really weather the storm. It was just to still be in a decent standing to be close to a playoff spot, and they accomplished that. And now with the schedule starting to favor them, they can hopefully, continue to put together more wins and, remain in a playoff spot.
Cole, what has been the difference? I mean, I think we've seen really good goalkeeping from Vejmelka, but it just seems like the energy is much higher on the ice. What have you seen? Yeah,
I mean, Vejmelka's been unbelievable. He was the 3rd star of the week last week with 3 wins. His save percentage right now is above 92%, which is just absolutely absurd. Any night that you're getting, above 900 and into the 915 and 920, you're going to win most of those hockey games. And so it starts in the back. And I think, the boys are kind of feeding off of that confidence in a lot of ways. And then as well, I think maturity is a big thing. That's what, Coach Torney talked to us about yesterday. Is he feels like they've become more mature as the season's gone on. They've been able to better protect leads. And instead of losing a lot of one-goal games like they did, where I think it was 7 or 8 in a row, one-goal games that they ended up losing, they've now been on the winning side of those. And even in some of those games that are tight, they've found ways to kind of keep the opponent at an arm's length by scoring, 1 or 2 goals and responding, right? They did it against Toronto when they're up 2 or 3-1. Toronto gets one, and then they put 2 in the back of Toronto's net and they get an empty netter. And they did the same thing against Seattle the other night where, it's a 3-3 game going into the 3rd period, and they were able to get a couple goals late. So I think confidence is really high, and then, I think they've matured a lot as the season's gone on.
So you told us how important the homestand was when you jumped on with us before it started, and I think everyone would agree it's been very successful. The Mammoth now sit at 54 points. So after having that success at home, where do you put the playoff likelihood now?
Yeah, I think it's very likely. I'd probably say somewhere between 55 to 65% chance that this team is going to make it. They've picked up wins at a critical point. Like we've talked about, they're starting to mature. They've got a lot of confidence that, the schedule really is going to favor them into the back half of this season. But, it's still a really tight race. If you look at that wild card spot, if you go from, wild card spot 1, which is where the Mammoth currently sit, down to the 7th spot, it's only a difference of about 7 points. And so, they have to keep winning. They can't just, win 6 or 7 here in a row, or as they've gotten 7 straight games with a point. They have got to continue to stack wins, and when they lose, only lose 1 or 2, and then try to rip off 3, 4, 5 again. That's really what playoff teams do, and I think that's why we've seen this the Mammoth be able to kind of flip the script, right? Like they lose to Columbus, but they manage a point, and then they win 3 in a row. So. It's looking good, but it's nothing is ever set in stone in the National Hockey League. Teams can make pushes, especially after the Olympic break. A lot of teams are kind of starting to stack up. That's why we're starting to see some trades moving. The Sharks making some trades and a few other teams. So it's looking good, but it's far from over.
Cole, who's the emotional center of this team? I mean, is there a player? Is it a coach? Is it a goalie? Who do you think sets the tone?
That's a good question. I think there's 3 players that kind of come to mind in different roles. I think the captain, Clayton Keller, sets the competitive tone for the Mammoth. I think Ian Cole is kind of that, that coach on the ice, if you will. Kind of a player that takes on a role of being able to mentor a lot of different guys on the ice. He's played for a long time. I think he's 36 or 37. He's won a couple Stanley Cups, and so he knows what he's doing, and a lot of guys have kind of looked to him for for pointers and for advice. And then in terms of energy, I would say Nate Schmidt. This is a guy that just shows up to the rink every single day with a big smile on his face. He's super energetic. He's very charismatic, and he plays the same game. It doesn't matter if the team's winning or losing. He's going to show up for all 82 the same way. He's going to bring the same game, and occasionally he's going to have performances like he did the other night where he gets 4 points on the board and helps the Mammoth secure a win.
I hope this question makes sense. I often talk about what the big story of the Jazz season is. Last year, I thought it was the development of Walker Kessler. This year, I think it's the development of Keontae George. It feels like, every NBA season with the Jazz has one, big takeaway dominant story. What would you say that is for the Mammoth so far this year?
That's a really good question, but it's a tough question. I would say just kind of the progress of the season as a whole. I don't know if there's really a specific player. I think if you wanted to single out one player, it might be, Dylan Guenther. That's a guy who, has taken that next step. He had 60 points last season. He's currently on pace for about 75 or 80, and he's on pace to score 40 goals. Scoring 40 goals in the National Hockey League that's an elite number. That's a number that separates you from most of the rest of the pack. And, he's done it during a stretch without Logan Cooley. I'd say that Gunther's probably, next to Vejmelka, Gunther's probably the MVP since Cooley went out. He stepped up. He scored game winners. He scored overtime goals. He's really put the team on his back and, managed to help them stay afloat. Not just stay afloat, but really thrive since 92 went down. So, overall, I'd say just the progress and the maturity. It looks like, that rebuilding process that Utah has embarked on for the last couple of years. This is year 5. It looks like they're on track, right? They're ahead of where they were last season. They're getting incredible contributions from just about everybody. But then, like I said, if you're going to single somebody out, I'd say Dylan Guenther's, ability to rise to the occasion and take the next step in his game is probably the biggest storyline in terms of a single player.
Hockey seems to be very momentum-driven. When you're kind of on a good run, it seems like you just want to keep playing. You don't want to mix things up. With that in mind, how do you think the team will welcome Logan Cooley back? Is it just you can't wait to get him back as soon as possible? And what have you heard about his return?
Yeah, he hasn't skated yet. It's funny, he's actually walking right in front of me. He hasn't skated yet, but what I've been told by Bill Armstrong is, he kind of broadened it, but it's a positive, right? Because originally it was, he's not going to come back until after the Olympics. But recently I sat down with Bill, and he told me on the record, hey, it could be before, it could be after. And I think a lot of it's going to have to do with, how does this team continue to play over these next 7 or 8 games before the Olympic break? Can they win half or more of those? Can they stay hot? Can they continue on this point streak? Because if they keep racking up wins, there's no reason to rush them back. Whereas if you get in a little bit of trouble and you want to make sure that you're picking up points, as like I said, it's a very tight race, then maybe you rationalize rushing them a little bit. But I think right now I wouldn't expect him to be back until after the Olympic break, just mostly based on the way the team is playing. Again, that could change. And then when he comes back, it's a decision that I'm glad that I don't have to make. It's tough, right? I mean, if you look at the top line, they're playing incredible. Lawson Krause has been fantastic on the top line. Nick Schmaltz, since going from wing to center, has just thrived. He's probably playing the best hockey that he has all season. You look at that second line of Hayton and Boots. And Peterka, I'm kind of thinking that's where maybe you put in Logan Cooley, but then what do you do with Barrett Hayton? You don't drop him to the third line because that Guenther McBain-Carcone connection has just been incredible. So, I would anticipate that when Cooley comes back, he probably goes back into the top 6. He's just a high-impact player. But, it's certainly a lineup change that is going to be difficult. But that's a good problem to have, right? Like, you want these changes. You want to have difficulty deciding where you put really good players, because that means that you're in a good spot and you're playing the right way.
Cole, thank you. We appreciate all your coverage.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Cole.
All right, there you go. Cole Bagley covers the Mammoth for KSLSports.com.
Good problem to have. Good problem to be playing so well that you're worried about incorporating back in maybe your best player. How you're going to bring him in. So Mammoth are playing well. They've been really fun to watch. And, when maybe Vejmelka's not completely on his game, which he basically has been for the last 4 weeks straight, they're still scoring enough goals to make his life easy.
All right, let's give away some Jazz tickets. Go ahead, Christian.
It's Jazz Ticket Tuesday, and your chance to win tickets is right now.
Call this number now.
Call this number now.
Be caller number 12 at 801-575-ZONE. 801-575-ZONE. And you'll be on your way to Delta Center to see the Utah Jazz.
He fires the three. He hits. Oh, don't do me like that.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. You're going to go see the Jazz and the Heat on Saturday at Delta Center, 7:30 tip time for that one, 801-575-ZONE. We'll have more for you coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
What's that?
Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson
1, 2, 3, move it.
on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two amigos on their ways, talking sports. They got him Matrix and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarves. Oh my.
Jake and Ben, thank you for sharing recently about Jake's music composing skills. What you shared did lead to a few natural follow-up questions. The first one being, Salt Lake is not particularly known for its Caribbean scene or musical performers, so I just wanted to know who the voice is on the reggae's intro music you use, number one. Number two, does Jake and maybe that singer get royalties every time it plays on the air? And then just one other thing I wanted to follow up with, and that is, what's with the like that? I think I've inferred that it's about a verbal tick that Jake has, so we all have to be punished. You make Christian play that every time he says it, and we're all the worse for it and have to suffer through it.
All right, Scott. Thank you for sending that in. The call in. You go to KSL Sports app and you can use the call in feature. He hit on a lot there. Mm-hmm. The guy's name is Bill, who's the singer.
You grew up with him, or you met him? Was in the neighborhood wandering around, or what was it?
Yeah, he answered an ad.
Okay, nice.
I put
classified.
Yeah,
in the real newspaper.
And
that
Bill
you can
auditioned
pick up and buy somewhere.
And I said, God, get this guy a microphone.
Like his vibe.
I do not get royalties every time it plays. I actually donated it to the show.
Oh, nice.
I did that for the show.
That's how we can afford to keep Christian.
Right. Because, I care.
Spread the love.
I donated it. So, no, don't get royalties. I wish I did. And then as far as like that goes, it's a bit developed because of maybe the greatest play-by-play moment in history. If we can play it.
One more gone but not forgotten, and that's our sweet Lucy. At the age of 12, she was run over in our driveway.
Oh, like that? Was she run over like that?
So this is a high school basketball game. Some administrator or something.
I think it was actually a college game, but yeah, it was like a
low
D3
level.
Or NAIA or whatever.
He's interviewing some guy who wants to talk about his dog dying.
Yeah,
getting run over.
The analyst wants to talk about his dog dying, and the play-by-play guy
doesn't want to hear it.
Doesn't want to hear it. He wants to talk about the big dunk that just happened in front.
Yeah, a guy gets posterized. He says, like that? Did he get run over like that? And yes, you are right. Jake had recognized that was a term he said a lot.
And
like
so it happened. Everybody says it a lot. It's not just me.
You're right, because now I hear how often people say it every day in my life, and I wait for the drop to come. It follows me everywhere I go. And I will tell you honestly, when we first started doing this, I hated it, and I didn't trust your programming ear at all, and it has just made me a full-on believer in your ability to program a show because it's an earworm that sticks with me everywhere in my life, as it does for so many of our listeners. So while I hated it and doubted it at first, it's made me a true Jake believer.
Thank you. The backstory is really funny. It would almost be funnier if it was just a verbal tick that Jake had.
Yeah.
But
everybody walks around
saying like that.
All the time.
It's an English language crutch. It's not a Jake crutch.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the answer there.
Yeah.
And shout out to Bill.
Thought out question.
The
singer.
Bill's
the singer.
Bill's the singer of the Bill and his fine Caribbean vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have one more. All right, here's a call in from Daniel.
Okay, this is Dan, longtime listener. I just want to say that you guys owe Bo Nix a huge apology. I don't know how Christian doesn't just cut you guys off from the mic anytime this slanderous, libelous tale of your vendetta against Bo Nix occurs. Is Salazar holding your families hostage or something? Because I can't understand how you guys devalue Bo Nix this badly. He had the second highest QB rating this weekend after Caleb Williams, who threw the game-losing interception. So let's not act like he's, Jake Scott trying to start for the Denver Broncos. Yeah, I went there. Anyways, I'm going to continue to listen. Thanks for what you guys do, but seriously, we need to reconsider our Bo Nix slander. Christian, my brother, let's ride.
Mount up, Daniel. I hear you. And, well, first of all, hilarious drop of Salazar there. Well done. Thanks for listening. Second of all, don't say us. Don't lump me in. This is all Ben. Ben has been a throw picks hater since he was at Oregon. Mm-hmm. I'll admit it, I cannot stand Denver. I am rooting against throw picks every time he steps on the field. But if you're talking about not giving him credit, that's all Ben. All Ben, all the time. And one of his worst takes.
The origin of this actually was his first couple of games in the NFL. He couldn't throw the ball 6 yards down the field. He would miss guys by as long as he was throwing it. It was 8 yards if it was a 6-yard pass. It was crazy how inaccurate he was. And then, I have to admit, I was baptized into the fingernails movement by watching Hard Knocks. So I put all my chips from the 2024 rookie class on fingernails. Yeah. On Caleb Williams, leaving no room for anybody else to succeed. So yeah, this is a bias I started because of HBO selling me on the greatness of Caleb Williams, which, by the way, he paid off over the weekend. I know they ended up losing, but he paid it off. And I've yet to see Bo Nix.
Closed his eyes and heaved it down
He
there.
hunked it, and it worked.
So Daniel, direct your angst at Ben.
Also, the nickname Throw Picks is inarguably hilarious. And for that to start at Auburn and follow him to Oregon is so funny. Yeah, I love that. So, yeah, I'm always going to hammer Throw Picks.
It's funny, I'll give you that.
And he's out for the season. Broke his ankle. Because he couldn't take a knee. I know he didn't break it on the kneel down. I know that's not what happened. I'm just saying his little scramble that got nowhere allowed somebody to rip his ankle in half.
So next up, Jared Stidham. Mount up, bro.
Yeah, you better be rooting, Daniel. You better be rooting against Stidham. Because if Stidham plays well, you're never going to hear the end of it.
That means throw pick stinks.
It means he stinks. It means he's literally a replacement level quarterback if Stids comes out and plays well. If Stidham comes out and does anything right, we don't need Bo Nix. Don't overpay him. You're going to find yourself in trouble because you have the quarterback whisperer and Sean Payton at head coach.
And when you've got a guy like that.
Like that?
It's really something.
Yeah.
Lightning in the bottle.
Yep.
All right. Shout out to Daniel. I hope your team loses.
Go Patriots.
Can't say that.
Go America. Go Broncos.
Honestly,
I'm happy for Robert Kraft.
I'm rooting for dysentery. You're happy for old Bob Kraft?
How do I say that? I hope it ends happily for him.
How do you think he celebrated the win?
I hope he has a nice ending that is a good ending for him in the AFC playoff race.
It wouldn't be the first game he celebrated like that. No, it would not.
Like that?
Hans and Scotty here coming up next.
Thanks, Christian.
Jacob Ben 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.